criticizing the fact that I have 8 children by 3 different women.
Right.
And I still want more children,
Right.
even though I'm being patient and finding my mate.
Right.
But you're 41 and haven't had any children. To what can we attribute your behavior?
Right.
Here's the irony. Her answer to Cam was exactly Cam's answer to her.
Yep.
She said she was taking her time. So I'm looking at this as a psychologist, right?
Right.
And then Cam comes with another question. He says, what age or how young can your potential mate be? She mentioned 26, 27. I said, as a therapist, bingo. I said, I know why Dr. Cheynne Bryant isn't married. Dr. Cheynne Bryant has a fear of abandonment. And the reason why a 26, 27-year-old spouse possibly would be appealing to her is she could parentify herself in that relationship where she becomes the mommy and the mate. And in being the mommy and the mate, I'm able to coddle my young partner. And in doing so, I get to control his behavior, therefore preventing the abandonment that I fear. When I looked at her conversation with you, you asked her the same question as well.
Yeah.
Well, what about you? And she talked about how she almost jumped the broom 4 times.
She's been engaged 4 times.
So once again, my therapy lights went off. And I said, here it goes again. The reason Dr. Bryant never managed to jump the broom on those 4 occasions is because her abandonment issues that she honestly put out there are so strong that she has a tendency to want to over control her mate as a means of preventing the abandonment. And
listen, listen, he is spitting right now, and I want to keep him going, but I don't want to get in trouble, and I probably am in trouble already because the video's going longer than it needs to. But I think this is what he's broken down is essentially what I was talking about on my channel, on my other channel, Little Black Book, when I spoke about this, right? Because this essentially is talking about Dr. Cheynne and the way that she operates. And I said that if you have 4 situations where you've got 4 times where you've been proposed to, engaged to, we've got a problem. Because, okay, you get engaged once, twice, okay, but 4 times, then we have to really look at what behaviors you're exhibiting. And why is it that you've gone there 4 times? Why is it that you keep being in a position to run away? This is not to say that she's a bad person. And it's not to even, this doesn't take away from the fact that what she speaks about is absolute truth. I hate when people do that. There's no need to take away from her truth, right? But Dr. Umar is rightly correcting and putting us in the right spec of mindset to correct it, that she is, because of her abandonment, it forces her to control. She actually is the antithesis, or I'd rather say the mirror of Nick Cannon and Cam Newton. They are afraid of commitment. She is too. But the difference between Cam Newton, Nick Cannon, and her is this. She is unwilling to go as far as having children out of wedlock and having multiple broken homes. For that, we have to separate her from Nick Cannon and Cam Newton. That is also the difference between men and women oftentimes, because she can only, again, procreate with one person at a time, whereas a man can procreate with many women at many times. The problem we have here is what the men can do and what the woman can do and cannot do. But in reality, when it comes to commitment of relationships, she's in the same boat as them. She is afraid of commitment and committing. Now, this is really important because many of us who have these abandonment wounds self-sabotage our relationships. When she spoke about her 4 engagements, I did another video a couple of months ago, and I spoke about how when she sabotaged those relationships, she spoke about how those men gave her no boundaries. And I said, for somebody who's got abandonment issues, you have to give them boundaries. Now, when I say boundaries, it does not mean force yourself upon them. It means letting them know that this behavior that they're doing doesn't work for you. But if you allow her space and allow her to drift and say, okay, I want to be as understanding as possible, which you should be, but understanding without any boundaries will lead to destruction. Always does. You've got to be able to say, listen, I understand where you're coming from. Deliver your message, but let the person know, listen, I'm still here, but I want to let you know there are certain behaviors that I don't work with. It's not working for me. And if it continues, I will have to leave, regardless of whether you feel like you've been abandoned or not. Whilst I believe that abandonment people need consistency, if I'm showing you consistency and you're still wanting to run away, I'm not going to outrun your abandonment issues if you're not willing to do the work. All right? Let's just a little bit more and we'll break it down more.
In her over control of these men who do not want to be over controlled, she either pushes them away or they leave of their own volition because they don't like the manner in which she wants to control the relationships.
And when we talk about control here, I want to be very, very clear. Control here is actually very different. So when he says control, I know she actually combats it by saying she's not controlling them. What she doesn't realize is through her abandonment issues, you end up controlling them. And here's the aspect of what happens. When you have abandonment issues, you are always striving to prove oftentimes the negative, right? Abandonment, rejection, or betrayal. These are three core wounds that we normally have, right? I link them to attachment styles as well, right? So abandonment wounds are oftentimes linked to the anxious and the fearful avoidant. And the fearful avoidant shares an anxious wound. So the anxious attachment style, right? So you see that abandonment wound come in, right? So in order to not feel that abandonment or not to have abandoned, they have self-defense mechanisms. One of them is that we create emotional distance, right? Another aspect is that if I'm not sure if you might abandon me or not, I'm going to test you, okay, by breaking boundaries and pushing things. And if you don't let me know that this is a boundary, let me know, listen, I don't appreciate that, what's going to happen is that person's going to push more until they actually feel unsafe for the fact that they keep pushing the boundaries and you don't say anything or lay down a construct for them to say, this is as far as you can go. So there's a way to do it assertively without being passive aggressive, becoming the lamb or the beast. You want to become the lion who's able to assertively let the person know these are my requirements, but I'm not going to say that, I'm just out all of a sudden. You know what I mean? I'm letting you know that this is what I'm working with. This is what I believe. This is how I feel. These are my emotions. When you do this, this makes me feel this. This has been assertive with your language and letting the person know, listen, that there are consequences to actions. There are. Right? Not punishment, consequences. Very, very different, right? But her controlling behavior in this aspect is that when she begins to flee, the person who she normally is in a relationship with is oftentimes an anxious person. Because when you begin to flee like that, I'm telling you this now, a dismissive person will be like, is that what you're doing? You go and flee. I'm going to show you how to stonewall properly. So they're going to fight you and it's going to be a power struggle. But when you often find yourself in that person when you're fleeing, you might find a person might be more anxious. They're going to always chase. Same with dismissive. They end up becoming manipulative, right? In their ways. The testing, the stonewalling, the hot and cold, it can become manipulative. Not that it is always, but it becomes manipulative in the way that you dabble with people. And I said this, that when she spoke about this, I said that it can become emotionally abusive because if I can say things to you, right, that are mean and not nice, but because you're nice to me, I can say more mean things to you and you're going to accept it, it can become emotionally abusive. I said this before, right, about her behaviors.
What do you think about that?
I love everything he said. Everything he said. Only one correction, then I'll go into what I love about he said. One correction. I didn't say I would want a 26-year-old man. What I was saying to Cam, because he kept asking the same question.
Right.
And I was reading behind his question, which the fans read also. He kept asking the age, because I'd already said as long as a man has no kids.
Right.
And he seemed very triggered by me saying a man with no kids, because that meant not him. And he
did you pick up on that?
Well, yeah, I picked up on that, and he deems me.
And she's not wrong for that. She's right to pick up on that because we all picked up on it, right? That the moment that she said it's not me, he became more inflamed because he's like, "What do you mean I can't have you?" Because remember, Cam's got an ego, which is I can get anybody I want. I can train them to be anything I want. I can let them be whoever I am because I am Cam Newton. But what he doesn't realize is there are people who are actually evolved who that doesn't work on. You can't seduce everybody. That's the art of seduction by Robert Greene. You cannot seduce everybody.
Me as being the kind of aesthetically woman that would have been, say, his type back then or now if he was single, because he's very much with his mate. And a man of high value can get whoever he wants, because you said that too.
Right.
But when you're sitting across from a woman who's high value and high functioning, and who would be, and I say this with humility, but I'm just going to say, who would be the poster card, the perfect woman per se, no kids, good looking, she's a doctor, she's educated, has her own stuff. It's telling you, no, you couldn't have me. And she's not just saying it, hold on, her no was not a no, her no was like, absolutely not. And I'm not saying it to get you to hunt me. I'm saying it because I'm nowhere in your jungle to be your prey.
So did you purposely say that to him to
no, he kept asking.
Not the kind of drinking the drink like he really is sipping up the tea, bro. But the reality of the situation is what happened with Cam Newton's situation. It's true. He did feel some type of way when she said no, right? And many of us do as men. We know this already. When someone says no, and it's like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Like, you're acting like I can't get you, whatever. It's an ego thing, right? But for her specifically, when Dr. Umar called her out, he called her out correctly because she has tendencies that lead from abandonment, but also she's afraid of commitment, just like Nick Cannon and Cam Newton. She is of the same ilk. Like if they didn't have kids, they would all be in the same boat, right? That is what separates her from everybody else, is that she has no kids, but she is of the same ilk. And so when she's interviewing them, they're looking at the reflection. All afraid of committing, all afraid of being abandoned, afraid that love won't work, afraid that, you know what, they choose the wrong person. It's all of the same ilk. And so I can see how this could become a problem. And I can see how Dr. Umar could call her out, because in the essence of the fact that she is looking at a mirror of camp. What I would say, though, is, to be fair, she has not been impregnated and she's not allowed herself to be so. Now, the part I disagree with Dr. Umar is when he said about why she hasn't got children. I'm like, broski, how can that be a measurement about saying somebody, because they haven't got children, you know, we're going to look at them some way? You're not even married. I just got to be fair, Dr. Umar, like, you're not married and you're talking about her not being married, but you're not married either. So, Dr. Umar, we've got to throw you in there too, because you got 2 kids by 2 women, or is it 1 woman? I can't remember, but you have 2 kids, right? And you're not married to that woman either. So you are in the same boat as well. And if I end up, and I'm in the same boat too, because there's some aspect of me that doesn't like commitment, which I'm now learning to heal. So I'm not even throwing myself out of the boat. I'm in the boat. I'm in the boat. And if I had Cam Newton's money, I would have been doing what Cam Newton's probably doing without the kid situation, in Egypt. As I've told you guys before this, about this. So, you know, when you have a commitment issues, right? We are seeing it play out with Nick Cannon, Dr. Umar, and also Dr. Bryant. So Dr. Umar, whilst he called her out professionally, he got to look at himself. Why are you not married? When you're trying to counsel Nick Cannon about marriage and you ain't married either. When I say about that, not that he's not married, but he has baby mothers outside of that. So he has to rope himself in that. Are you afraid of commitment? You know what I'm saying to you? Have you not found the right one? Are you taking your time? What are you doing too? And the question is, what am I doing? And I'm on the hunt. I'm on the search. I'm tired of this singleness. I can't lie to you. Anyway, like, share, subscribe, click on that bell button for notification of uploads. We appreciate you guys. So lots of we'll see you again soon.